research? Can you pick up things without somebody holding your hand all day long, every day? Can you learn on your own and figure things out? Ask questions when it's appropriate, but can you figure things out and learn and understand that material? One of the biggest drawbacks we see with college grads, with the younger generation, and I've seen this as a pattern, is that they want quick answers, quick fixes to get quick results. And most of the time, that's not the right solution. So the tendency is to go on Google or go somewhere else and quickly find a solution that'll meet the answer that you want, and you implement that and it works, so you're great. And the comment you always hear, well, it works, but that's not the right way to do it. And so we really want graduates that can think, analyze, and design, and understand why they're coding it this way, and why this works the way it does, and what does that technology do, and that you dig in and not, it's interesting because you go from a transition. When you're in college, you have all of these assignments you have to do and all these subjects, and you're juggling all the time, right? And sometimes you got to cut back, and I can't quite put the time what I want in this assignment because I got to finish that assignment. You're looking at your grade, you're juggling all these things. But when you get out in the workplace now, you're usually on a project. You're dedicated. You need to meet a deadline, but they want you to do a good job. And they want you to understand what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it that way. So you have to transition from just finding a solution, getting it done so you can hand in the assignment, get the grade, to understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it that way and why did you implement it that way, because it'll have an impact on the rest of your team for that code, because that code probably going to last a long time, and you want to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and you have good reasons for doing that. So you shift from getting it done and getting the solution quick to really understanding it and digging in and knowing what you do.
I think a lot of that comes from maturity and being in the industry and being willing to not only write but rewrite code that you've already written based on comments from your peers or having a code review or something that will give you some more insight on what that bigger picture is and how it affects the rest of the system. I wouldn't expect you to come out of college knowing that stuff, but knowing to ask the question will help you gain that maturity quicker.
Also to follow up on ours is that we write and support our own software, so we're not really out there selling our software. So we always kind of say we kind of cook our own dog food and eat our own dog food. I mean, whatever we build, we've got to maintain support, and if we're too fast, if we're out there not paying attention, all of a sudden the change requests come in, enhancements aren't working, and basically the phones light up, and it becomes a very difficult situation. So yeah, part of it is as we do our training, we have to let people understand whatever you build and support, you're going to live with that, and you better write something well engineered, because if it's not stable, then it comes back. And the other thing too is a skill set that you really have to develop as well and understand is security. We handle driver's license, social security numbers, wage records, health information. We're passing all this around. Data breaches, outside vulnerabilities coming in to take information for selling and exploiting. There are groups in the U.S. that will go out and exploit large data aggregators and then resell that information, which then they come in and try to make false tax filings to get your tax returns, or false unemployment insurance things so they can get the money that way. There is the basics of coming out. We look for problem solvers. We look for people's ability to learn and understand what you build. If you are, like I said, speed to delivery, you're going to have lots of security holes. And the way we lose our contract and the way we lose our paychecks is if we end up on the front page of the Statesman, and if we end up somehow having to explain to the citizens of Idaho, your social security numbers really weren't that important. Oh, we lost your health records. We just exposed everything about you. Sorry. I mean, it's really is when you code, you have to take, it's a very heavy responsibility that we have to go through on that training as well. That's why I said that's part of our thing. It's not a tool set, it's also educating on how to develop, how to maintain, how to build something robust that lasts, supported, and also doesn't end up on the front page of the big time.
Those are good points, and I agree with Blaine's about how there are parts of the product you really have to focus on, and people are going to be anal about whether you check in code there and they're going to code review it, and they're really important, and design matters in that part of the product. For a lot of products, there's also kind of an outer edge of utilities and tools you write, or something you need to do because you're a startup, and if you don't close this deal, then your business is going under. So I don't want you to think that every business is the same and that everyone is just super duper concentrated. We're going to over engineer, or just engineer the right way, but on this core piece. There's plenty of Google for a solution. Then use my brain to decide, is that the right thing to apply to this problem, and do it quickly. And anything you can do quickly that is done soundly is still very appreciated. I just don't want anyone to think, yes, there's security, there's a ton of very serious things to consider, but there's also a lot of the really fun stuff. There's a lot of the really cool, hey, I learned jQuery in 3 days yesterday, and I applied it to this website, and I solved that problem we had. There's a lot of that, and so don't get caught up in too much of the, this is the, the super serious stuff. There are a lot of aspects of that. I mean, we manage PHI, private health information. You can't use that, or you're on the front page of the paper too. But we also do a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of fun stuff, and we do it quickly and intelligently too. So there's definitely parts of products where you really have to focus and take them very seriously, and there's parts of products where you can really have fun and do cool things too.
That's true.
Go to the panel with a question.
I just wanted to follow up with the panel. Salesman for Jim Connor. So one thing that always comes up to students, like when you're in school, you don't really get to experience the full life cycle of software development. Someone has to figure it in. But most of you are probably not aware, but some of you are aware that now we have a senior design class. It's required for students who are coming in this year, but the other students can take it as an elective and will satisfy one of the electives. But the cool thing about this class is all the projects come from industry directly, and you can work with those people to finish the project. So this will be part of the software engineering and senior capstone class. So I'll highly recommend students to take it, even though it's not required, because they can't say that you don't get that experience, because you'll get the actual experience. Dr. Jim Conrad is sitting in the back there, he's going to be leading the class. The first real offering is next semester, right? The first real offering is next semester.
Next semester, yeah, it runs.
And we got, I think, 15 projects from 7 or 8 different companies. So all the projects can come from actual companies. You're going to be actually working on actual products, but it'll be scaled down to something you can finish in one semester.
And you won't get out without doing Scrum and learning every role in the program.
Yes. So this is not going to be required. It's required from starting students who came in this year, but I would highly recommend all of the students to take it.
Yeah, definitely. Any experience that you get to that one, it's a full, long-ranging project. That's great stuff to get.
Thank you all. A couple of panelists talked about what they're looking for in students when they graduate. We'd like to continue that theme. Talk about what are you looking for when you're hiring students right out of college?
We're looking for a balance between technical skills and cultural fit. I think that people underestimate the cultural fit side. We just prepare for the technical interview, look at common questions on the internet, and practice and things like that. But when we interview people, we're also trying to assess, their humility, how teachable are they, especially if they're interns, because you spend a lot of your life at work, and you want to enjoy working there and the people that you work with. And so that's what we look for. Can they learn? Because I think technical skills can be learned. And not only that, I think you'll find that if you have those soft skills, you're more likely to advance in your career. Whereas if you just kind of work with your head down and specialize in one technical area, and that's all you do, that's all you're probably going to do. And so you really need to find a good balance between technical skill and soft skill. And that's what we look for.
We do a lot of, so I always, when I look at resumes from students, I'm always trying to find something like a senior project or an internship or something you built on the side, even if you don't think it's important. It's a little throwaway project you built to learn some technology. I would first off, keep all of those. They'll remind you before you go to an interview, you can scan them and kind of, oh yeah, I built that thing and did X, Y, or Z. But having those things on an interview gives me something to talk to you about when otherwise you don't have a lot of prior work history or anything else to talk about. I can talk to you about the classes you took, how you liked some class, but that's going to be boilerplate. I'm going to get that from every candidate. But if you can tell me about some senior project you did, some team group programming you did, or if you can show me code on GitHub or somewhere, some little project you built, a utility you built. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. The initiative that you took to build it, to save it somewhere, and that's something that kind of sets you apart from other students. It helps me go, hey, they really are interested in software. They didn't just take every class that was required and come and try and get a job. It just gives you more to talk about. I would take any opportunity you can get to do an internship, a co-op, a small project like that. It really sets you apart from the rest of the candidates.
I think that shows passion as
That's
well.
exactly
right.
Really. If you see someone doing it in their spare time, you know that they love it. And somebody who loves doing it, that's who you want to work with.
That's actually good advice, not just for being an intern. I didn't realize that volunteering with the Boise School District to write Android applications, which I did so that I could learn how to write Android applications, not so much about the volunteering, was actually going to come up in my latest interview since I just moved over to Census, but I had been Googled and found out that I had taught a group of 7 students how to write 3 Android applications that are just middle school and high school. And so it's good advice just in general.
Yeah, second what they said, and the last person we hired, straight out of college, it was they built an Android. They ran cross country and they'd been working with the coach, and they're trying to track some metrics of the people on the cross country team. And so he says, "Hey coach, let me just write some stuff for you." And so he started to build kind of Android apps on the side. It's like, yeah, he had a senior project, he had internships, but it was kind of that problem solving and also in a practical real world experience where he was able to show what he did and take requirements from somebody and try to come up with something unique and new. And so is that kind of the puttering, the outside the scope. It wasn't just a standard, because we had people same time applying as resumes saying, I worked with this professor on this paper and I did all these statistics, and it was just it was very textbook. Yeah, it was very textbook. And we really went for somebody who's like, can they adapt to our culture? Can they come in with new ideas and look at things in a different way? Can they listen to people around them and kind of synthesize from multiple areas something new and unique? And so that's really what set that person apart. Even though we had other people with more experience and like a graduate degree, we're like, we want the one that comes in and says, I'm passionate, look what I can do. Yes, I've got great grades and all this stuff, but this is really cool. Let me show you this really cool thing over here and get really excited about it. And that was important to us.
I think it is, a lot of times it depends on, sometimes when you interview for a company, you may not get a position, an internship, or you may not get hired right away like you like, but you have to remember too that each company is hiring an individual into a team. And so sometimes there's an opening in a team and they need a particular kind of individual, right? You don't always need a superstar. And you don't always need a leader. You need sometimes people that can really bang out some code. So there's different types of personalities, different skill sets that you look for that you need in order to round out that team. And so sometimes it's timing. Sometimes your timing's off. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that. You interview for a company, but really they're looking for this type, and you're just not a fit for what they're looking for right now in that team. You could interview 6 months later and get the job if it's a different type of opening. So you don't feel bad or think that there's something wrong with you necessarily. Sometimes you don't get a position you want, realizing the company's looking for that. They do want well-rounded individuals, right? We don't want, no company wants an entire company of geekies, okay? How we normally use the term. You have an entire company of geeks, and nobody knows how to communicate, nobody knows how to write. You can't secure any funding from any upper management if you can't communicate your ideas, right? You want to be able to present your ideas, so you want to be able to communicate verbally and in the written word, and you want to be able to write up requirements. We want a well-rounded engineer that can do a lot of things. And again, it depends on all these answers up here. It depends on the company, the area in the company. He talked about security. My group care less about security. Don't have to worry about that at all. So I don't even deal in that area. So it really depends on where you're working, what company you go to work for, what you're going to be doing, and we want really a well-rounded engineer. But I think above and beyond anything, you have to be able to think. You have to be able to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And too often, We find people that have memorized patterns, memorized, well, when I'm in this, I do this, when I'm in this, I do that. And then they end